and welcome to a new video in this beautiful cozy season. And I'm going to grab my art supplies, I'm going to light up some candles, I'm going to grab myself some tea, and well, I suggest that you do the same so you can follow along and we can have a nice cozy watercolor session. And I'm going to slowly ease into it. I thought that for this video we can do some pumpkins. So we are going to start. We are going to grab our supplies. I'm going to put down a list with all the materials that you need to be able to follow along. So you can pause the video here and look at the materials that you need in the description or here on the screen. And of course, don't forget to grab yourself some tea and light up a candle. And we are all cozy and ready to start going. And of course, we will start with the sketching. We are going to sketch the composition, and this part makes the actual watercoloring part easier. But I can understand that sketching can feel challenging. If you draw a lot, if you paint a lot, of course, things get easier. But if you are a beginner, then this might seem a little bit challenging. But I don't want you to worry about this and don't be too harsh on yourself. I make mistakes myself as well, and I use a soft eraser to erase mistakes that I make. And it's okay to do that. If you feel like you need to practice with your sketching, grab yourself a sketchbook, have a sketchbook ready. A sketchbook that you agree to yourself is for the messy sketching. So mistakes are allowed. You're just trying it out. It doesn't need to be pretty. It's just about getting to feel comfortable with the medium and the materials that you're working with, and just try it out on there before you start working on your watercolor paper. So if that's something that you want to do right now, you don't need to start on your watercolor paper if you don't want to. But of course, starting right on a watercolor paper is an option as well. And you may have noticed in the description, I can mention it again, it is always best to use heavy watercolor paper, like the 300 grams. It's best to because the amount of water that you're using, and then the paper doesn't get all wobbly. So when it comes to the sketching, let's get back to that. As you have noticed while you're following along with me right now, that at first, when it comes to pumpkins, I love to use some kind of messy oval shapes, and then like the half moons to the side, and they can be like stretched out a bit. And I love to have this like curvy stem on the top. But I noticed that if I'm winging this without first drawing like an outline of what I want the pumpkin shape to be, then it can get distorted a bit. So I needed to erase that and fix that. So that's a tip that I can give you when you're drawing your pumpkins, to first draw like a circle or a messy circle. And of course, you have pumpkins and squash in all kinds of shapes. Just first draw the shape of the outline and then draw those. Well, in this case with the squash, you can draw the lines a little bit bendy, a little bit curved. And when you are drawing the pumpkin, I don't know if like an oval shape is the best word for it, but I think you know what I mean. You have that one in the front, and then those really stretch out like moon shapes or like vertical lines from the side that are curved on the top and also a bit on the bottom. And that's, if you do this a lot, then it's a really nice and mindful exercise to just do it without thinking. Now, of course, you can always use reference photos. That's always recommended. And not that you have to like copy someone's work, but it's really good studying to have photos or like other people's creations and use it to study how it's done. And especially I always use it when I learn to draw new animals, for example, because everything has got their own characteristics, and if you're doing a lot of studying, then it gets easier for you to draw them. And I wanted to make it easier for you, so I have created an outline of this composition of the pumpkins, and I have made it available to download, so you can find that link in the description as well. So you can use that outline, you can maybe even trace it if you still find this part too challenging. And don't be harsh on yourself. It's perfectly fine, especially when you're beginning. You are learning this, and that's really amazing that you put on this video and that you are like giving yourself the gift of learning a new skill. It's really awesome and really amazing, and I'm so happy to have you here. And of course, if you want to get better, my suggestion that I did in the beginning, you can always grab yourself a sketchbook and do studies in there. Now I want to add some leaves to this to these pumpkins. Just well, I can say, by the way, that this is not really a composition in the way like this is going to be an art print that I'm going to hang on my wall. For me, I love to create patterns as well and these art print designs. And in this case, I'm like drawing and painting the assets, and I wanted you to learn how to draw and paint pumpkins. So I just picked a variety of shapes and sizes. And this is not really like an art composition, just so keep that in mind. And maybe I can do that later in a different video because I think that's a good idea. But for now, I'm just drawing and we're going to paint the separate pumpkins. And as I said, I think leaves should be here as well. And I am trying out a different shape of leaf that I would usually do, but I noticed that I didn't leave so much space for the leaves on this piece of paper, so they are a little bit longer and thinner, but still I think this is it looks really nice. So if you want to to draw different kind of leaves, of course you're welcome. As I said, you can use reference photos, and I think that pumpkin leaves may be a bit like thicker, like rounder, but still that's also the beauty of being an artist. You are the boss of your own creation, so you can create whatever you like. So we are nearing the end of drawing our composition. Now, if you're still working on it, if you need some more time, of course you can always rewind back and watch this again or pause the video before we are going to move on to the next part where we will be working with the watercolor. So the first thing that I do before I start painting is grab my kneading eraser and roll it all over my sketch. Now, don't get scared like, oh my god, what are you doing? You're just erasing everything that you've been drawing. And I'm not asking you to erase everything, because you still need to be able to see where you are going to paint. Now, on the screen, my lines look thinner than you actually could. I can see them in real life. But the thing is that I don't like to have the pencil lines in the end result of my artwork. So I like to erase them as much as possible. Now, as you could see as well, I usually do this a little bit earlier, like 5 minutes before I start painting. I spray water on top of my watercolors to activate the paint, and that way it's easier to get it like the pigment on your brush. So that's something that you could do as well. And now, while we are starting with the painting, of course we are painting pumpkins, so of course I'm going for the orange color. and I love to go for some other colors as well. I love that cozy color palette, so that's what I'm going for. And the thing is that you want to try to stay within those pencil lines. And it's not a problem if you accidentally go over the lines. It's just that once you paint over the lines, you can have erased the line, so it will always be there. And the other thing is that if you want to keep on painting and not have the paint accidentally touch each other so that it's blending in, if you're staying within those lines, you can keep on painting. You don't need to wait for a certain area to dry. And then another thing that I'm doing is I am using different colors while it is still wet. So I pick one color and I paint in those shapes. I also love to work a little bit with different shading. So I'm not painting everything the same solid like shade. It's there's a difference, there's a variety in dark and light. But then I also love to drop in other colors while the paint is still wet. And then it blends in deliciously. I really love that effect. This really is my favorite way of blending watercolor paint. Now, the thing is that you need to pay attention to where you want to have the shading. Now, even we are still doing our first layer. So what I just explained to you using different kind of colors, like dropping in a different color while the paint is still wet, that's called the wet on wet technique. But for these pumpkins, we're also going to use the wet on dry technique. So now we are going to do the first layer on all the pumpkins and the leaves. And once we are finished, we're letting that dry. And then we are going to put other layers on top of what we just painted. And then you will see that has a totally different effect. Then the color won't blend into what we already painted. And it has like a harsher line. And well, you're going to see it. It's just something, it's really nice to know those different kind of techniques when you're working with watercolors. And I think these pumpkins are a great subject to practice those techniques. Now, as you can see, I like to play around with the colors. Like, I don't want all the pumpkins to be the same color. And if you're using a reference photo, that's awesome. Then you, if I don't know, it depends on the photo you're choosing, of course, but like if you're going on Pinterest and you have a board with all kinds of pumpkin photos, you see that you have them in all shapes, sizes, and colors, and you can get a lot of inspiration from there as well. So I like the yellow one with the green shading in the lines. I really love that variety in the color. And as you can see, I love to drop the shading like at one side. I just look at how that blends in. It's really beautiful. Now the bigger pumpkin, I want to do orange, and I'm picking a little darker orange here because I already have two pumpkins in the lighter orange. But still, I really love how these colors blend in together. They're so beautiful. I love autumn, and I love autumn colors. So this is one of my favorite subjects. Same goes for autumn leaves. I love autumn leaves as well. So I live in a new, well, as I said in the beginning, I moved. So I'm living in a new street, and this is the first autumn that I'm living here. And I was just thinking back, and it was the end of last year when I first started looking at this place when it was for sale. And I don't remember, it was after the autumn period, and this is my first autumn here. And there's one thing that I'm noticing, and it's making me really, really happy. And that's the trees in my street. Like only this street in the entire neighborhood, the leaves of the trees turn yellow in autumn. The leaves are yellow right now, and the streets are yellow with the leaves, and it really, really makes me so happy. So I didn't even know that when I bought the house, but it makes me feel like I made the right decision. So, and I hope that while you are watching and joining me, that it's going well for you. So I'm just going to repeat what I'm doing here. So maybe I'm going to speed it up a little bit and put on some music, but don't hesitate to pause the video if you need to, or go back for a bit. And for now, I just want to say that I hope that you enjoy the process, have a cozy moment, and then I'll get back when I have something new to tell you. So let me quickly jump right in here. I have mixed a very bright green. I used some yellow and sap green for this to start the basics of these leaves. But I'm going to drop in some other and darker colors as well. And I want it to blend in very nicely. So that's the plan with these leaves here. Now for the stems of the pumpkins, I want to use some different colors that are going very nicely with the pumpkin color. So I've got some shades of brown and some shades of some darker green. And I really love how the combinations work out. Now for this part, we need to dry the artwork first. So if your painting is still wet, then pause the video, let it dry, and once you're sure that it's dry, you can use a hair dryer for this if you want to, and you have those crafting dryers as well, but make sure that your painting is dry. And now we are working with the wet on dry technique, and we are adding some shading on top of the pumpkins. I must admit that this part I wasn't really planning to do, but I don't know. When I saw what the pumpkins look like right now, I really felt like they could use some more realistic shading, and I'm really loving how this is turning out. So what you're doing, you grab a little bit of a darker color, matching the original color of your pumpkin, and you trace those lines where you want that shading to be. And then you can wet your brush a little bit and like brush it out a little bit to fade it out. And now for this one has really nice dots. At least the pumpkins that I know that I'm seeing on my reference photos, they have these really beautiful dots. And I really love to create those dots while the paint is still wet, because then they aren't so harsh. They really blend in nicely. So that's the thing, you just like paint the lines and then brush it up, fade it out a bit, and then while the paint is still wet, drop in some of those darker dots for extra details. So again, we're going to the big pumpkin, and I am painting the borders, those lines where there's shading. And then I clean my brush a bit, put some clean water on it, just not too much, and then brush it out a little bit, dropping in some more color as well. This is a really dark pumpkin, so I want to drop in some orange and yellow in there. And now we are moving on to the other pumpkin, and it's the same process as well. using a little bit more dark. I love to do this as well. It really gives a lot of depth to use multiple colors and go darker, darker, darker. For this pumpkin, I like to drop in some of those dots as well. I love the effect. I love how it's turning out. Maybe this is going too fast for you, so you can pause the video, rewind back, and let me know in the comments what you think about this. I try to create my tutorials that they are not too long, because I must admit that I have spent hours, I think it was 4 hours on these pumpkins, not to demotivate you, but I know that people aren't really looking forward to watch a YouTube video for 4 hours. There are exciting movies that are a lot shorter, so I do speed up the video at certain times, but please give any feedback that you have, because I really am here to teach you, and I hope that it really helps you in growing your skills and getting confident. Also, I haven't mentioned this yet, but I really love to see what you create, and I will also love to give you feedback. So I would love it if you would share your creation on your Instagram and then tag me at Sandra Art Studio. And if you have any questions, if you would like to have some video, just let me know. You can also send me a DM. And if you are a little bit hesitant to share it on your Instagram feed for the whole world to see, you can always just send me a photo via DM that you have created something and that you would like to have some feedback. I would absolutely love that. So don't hesitate to do that. So again, it's at Sandra Art Studio on Instagram. So as you can see, I got myself a smaller brush and some darker green paint, and I'm adding some details on the leaves. And I must admit, this is one of my favorite parts of painting, because an illustration really comes to life at this point. And it also always feels like a very mindful exercise. So for this, always make sure that you have enough paint and water on your brush so that you can make smooth lines. I love to have those details on the stems of the pumpkins as well, so a little bit diagonal. And I want to have some really, really teeny tiny extra lines, so I'm hardly touching the paper at this point. But as you can see, it's really important to make sure that the paint of the layer underneath is dry, because otherwise all those details, all those lines, they would just like blend in with the paint below and the details won't have any effect. It will all get blurry. So that's what you really need to think about when you're painting. Do you want to have details, or do you want to have like beautiful flowy colors blending in? And I know for most painting type like acrylics, it's really mostly recommended to go from darker to lighter. Only with watercolors, once it's dark, you cannot really make it lighter. So it is always preferred to start light and then go darker. Now there's one thing that I love to do, and we're going to do that as well after this phase, and that is use pencil, colored pencil, for some extra details. And with pencils, you can go over dark. So you can pick a light colored pencil and go over a darker watercolor area and then make it lighter. So you can keep that in mind as well. If you feel like maybe you've gone too dark, that's fixable with colored pencil if you like that effect. Now, as you can see, I am adding those really beautiful thin lines to the pumpkins, and I'm really happy with this effect and how it's turning out. And again, I'm using a really small round brush for this, and maybe if you feel like this is difficult, you can go for a smaller round brush. I think I have a size 3 here, but you could also go for like a size 1. It makes it easier for you. I just don't have them lying around right now. It's just with moving, etc. I don't have all my art supplies yet. So you would want to start from the bottom and from the top. You don't, well, you can choose to let those lines go all the way from the bottom to the top, or have them only at the bottom or at the top. Make it a little bit playful. So you can go both ways, depending on what you prefer and how you think it looks better. And the thing is that you want to have it more at the bottom and the top. It has to do with shading, because your pumpkin is a bit curved, you want it to look less flat. It really helps shaping your pumpkins. And again, pick colors that fit your pumpkin and that are a bit darker. So you can always use the color that you painted the pumpkin with and then add a darker color. So with the orange, you can add some dark brown or dark green, and you get a nice darker color that totally fits your pumpkin. I am really happy with how these pumpkins are turning out. We're almost done with painting those lines. And then there's another thing that I always love doing with my art, is use metallic paint to make it extra shiny. You don't have to do this. It's completely optional if you don't have any metallic paint or you just don't like it. It can be very personal, but this is something that I love doing, and I love to use the green. I got that from a local paint maker here in the Netherlands, and I have been using it for a while now. And I also love to use gold or copper metallic paints as well. It just gives this extra dimension and shimmer, and of course it's better, you see it better in real life than here on the camera. But especially if you want to create like a card for someone, for example, and give them the original piece of art, then it's really nice when it has this shimmer. It really gives a nice effect. And I'm using the same small round brush for this. And maybe you wonder, like, I'm tracing all those darker detail lines that I've painted before. Couldn't it have been easier to just do that right away? But the thing is that what I've noticed in the past, that if I skip doing that with my regular watercolor paint, then the metallic paint gets lighter. It just doesn't have the same effect. Like right now, the dark green pops, the details pop. And if I would have missed that step with the dark green watercolor paint, then the lines wouldn't pop. So I decided with some metallic green light paint to paint some more leaves. You can do this with regular really light green paint as well. I really love to make it one whole composition, even though I'm going to probably mix it around once I have scanned it into my computer. But I really love how everything fits together. So I added some gold metallic circles as well. And now, my personal finishing touch is using colored pencil. I love the texture of colored pencil on watercolor paper, and it really gives an extra dimension to your watercolor creations. Now, maybe it looks silly that I'm using pink to also go over the green pumpkin. Well, I love pink. Don't judge me, I just love that color. And I also love the combination of green with pink. You can totally go for different colors if you like to. But what I do recommend is to pick one or two colors and then use those colors for all your pumpkins and also maybe your leaves, because this way you really integrate everything. You really make sure that everything goes well with each other. It's like one whole. And yes, I'm really happy with how this is turning out. So pink might be a very bold move to go for. I'm also going to use some orange and some green for the leaves, no worries. It's just that with the pink, especially with the not pink pumpkins, I really love the extra shading it gives. You can have like gentle, very soft strokes, and you can make it a little bit harder, like harder strokes to make it a bit darker. Going around the edges where I want the shading to be, where I expect some shading. Now I'm picking my orange and also going over all my pumpkins. I don't even like touch the entire pumpkins. It's just like for some extra details and some extra shading at some points. And as I said, this is completely optional. If you don't like the colored pencil effect, then of course it's all up to you. So I'm grabbing a little bit of light. As I said, if you're using light colored pencil on some darker paint, it really lightens it up, and I love that effect as well. So the pumpkins aren't really flat anymore. I really love how they came to life. So I'm so curious how your pumpkins are turning out, and I'm really hoping that you are enjoying this process. So really, I would love it if you would share it with me. I'm so curious. So I'm using some more green. This is a bit of a darker bluish green for those leaves, especially the lighter ones. You know, we started with a mix of some light green yellow paint, and it was all flat. It was all one color, and I really love to have it blend in, really getting really playful, and yeah, not so flat. I love the details and I love the colors and flowing. So we're almost ready. If you're still working on this and you need more time, again, you can pause the video, you can rewind a bit, listen back, watch back, take your time. You can also, of course, always rewatch this video. Adding some brown for the stems. And of course, don't forget to sign your piece of art. And we are finished. I really hope that you enjoyed this tutorial video and that you have been following along creating your own pumpkins. So this is how mine turned out, and I really love them. I love the colors, I love the details, even though I thought at first I would make them a little bit simpler, but I really love how they turned out. Of course, we can even go in a more realistic direction. We could also go in a more whimsical direction, and I'm probably going to make some tutorials like that as well. But if you have like it's something that you'd really want me to do, then just leave a comment, and of course I consider everything that you request, so you can always do that. And of course, if you haven't done already, please like this video so that I know that you appreciate this kind of content and I can make more like this. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that you can get a notification. Oh, you need to hit that bell notification so that you know when I post another video. And I promise you that from now on, it will be at least once or twice a week. and not another 6 months you have to wait. No, I am really fully dedicated in creating these tutorials again. So just hit that bell notification and you get a message when my next video arrives. So thank you again so much. Oh, and before I forget, if you have followed me along and you created your own watercolor pumpkins, then I would love to see what you've created. So of course, I love it if you would follow me on Instagram. Then you can also see what I do day to day. I share a lot of things in my stories. But as I said, I love to see what you create. So if you would post it and then in your stories or in your feed, and then just tag me at Sandra Art Studio. And yes, I will share it. I will comment on it. I just would really love to see what you create. So thank you again for watching this video, and then I hope to see you in the next one.